Perfect competition is an economic model of a market defined by several key properties. In perfect competition, every firm is selling an identical product. There are many buyers and sellers of the product, typically numbering in the hundreds or thousands. Next, buyers and sellers must have complete information about the product being sold and the prices of all sellers in the market. Fourth, in perfect competition, new firms must be free to enter the market and existing firms must be free to shut down and leave the market. In other words, there must be free entry and exit. In perfect competition, there are no restrictions on or barriers to firms entering and leaving the market, like prohibited startup costs or legal barriers. In perfect competition, because there are so many firms selling an identical product, no individual firm has the ability to influence the price it receives for the product it sells. As a result, we say that every firm is a price taker. Each firm must accept the price dictated by the market. Perfect competition is a very useful model, but it is important to note that very few, if any, markets in the real world are truly perfectly competitive. Markets for agricultural products, like corn or carrots, are sometimes cited as examples of markets that are very close to perfect competition. Let's look at the relationship between what happens in the entire market and what happens at the level of an individual firm in perfect competition. On the left, we see the demand and supply curves for the entire market for a good, and on the right, we see the marginal cost, average total cost, and average variable cost curves for an individual firm in that perfectly competitive market. The vertical price axis for both graphs has the same scale. In the market, we have our usual downward sloping demand curve and upward sloping supply curve. The market equilibrium occurs at the intersection of the demand and supply curves. We'll label our market equilibrium price here as P star. Remember that an individual firm is a price taker in perfect competition, meaning that an individual firm has no control over the price it receives. Therefore, an individual firm faces an horizontal demand curve at the market equilibrium price. The firm can sell whatever quantity it is able to produce at the market price. But if the firm charges even a penny more than the market price, the firm won't be able to sell anything, since consumers could go to any of the hundreds or thousands of other firms that sell the product and pay the market price. Because an individual firm cannot influence the price it receives by changing the quantity it sells, the firm's horizontal demand curve is also its marginal revenue curve. For each additional unit of the good the firm sells, the firm's revenue increases by market price of the good. We'll cover the production decision of an individual firm in more detail later, but in general, if a firm decides to produce at all, a firm will maximize profit by producing at the quantity where marginal revenue equals marginal cost. In this case, an individual firm will produce at the quantity we'll label Q star. The graphs we've drawn show the situations of the market and an individual firm in long-run equilibrium. We'll get into detail of why that's the case and what happens when the market is not in long-run equilibrium later.